Hello, Glastonbury. Please give it up for
Hello.
Dan Smith. How are you doing?
How's everyone doing? You all right?
So, okay, spoiler, you're not in Wild at Heart, but you are a big fan. And so we got you here to...
Who here's seen Wild at Heart?
All right, a number of people, I think.
Fantastic. So, how's your Glastonbury so far? Nice. So I didn't realise that this was a conversation. It is.
Hello.
This is Helen, who edits Empire magazine, which is an incredible... anyone here read Empire magazine?
Oh, thank you.
So growing up as a massive film nerd, Empire magazine was like just up there. That and Total Film were the two things that, any of you film nerds? Anyone here? Yeah. Was for me the epitome of like everything that you could imagine being a thing. And I'm sat here with the editor, which is fucking mental. Unfortunately for Helen, I wrote like an introduction to this film, not realising this would be a conversation. So
I've been encouraging him to just read it, but, you know.
So
tell us.
I was going to talk a bit about David Lynch and how much I love him, and introduce this film a bit. Just as I went backstage before this talk, and Riyadh, who runs this wonderful place, he mentioned to me that they were going to play, after this talk, a remix I did of one of David Lynch's songs, which sounds insane. It was, for me, one of the most surreal things in my life, but I didn't realise that. So after this really awkward me reading off my phone like a wedding speech thing that's about to happen, they're going to play that remix, which is, for me, very exciting, because some people forgot it existed. We've got a few walkouts. Bye, guys. Have a wicked weekend. Bye. Have a great time. I would also leave if I was you. So I was going to talk a little bit about David Lynch, and I've asked Helen to interrupt and ask questions if and when it's appropriate. So, excuse me while I stare at my phone and talk at you guys. Everyone all right? Okay. So, David Lynch's films mean a huge amount to a lot of people, myself very much included. His films bring ideas and feelings that are hard to articulate to life. They incorporate the surreal weirdness of dreams, the darkness beneath the shine of polite society, heartbreak, humanity, the insanity of relationships, and beautiful image after beautiful image with incredible music to life on the big screen. I became obsessed with Twin Peaks when I was a teenage film nerd. Back then, the only way to see that show was on imported American DVDs found on a weird, obscure online shops. To watch them, I had to get my parents' DVD player hacked, without them knowing, at the local electrical shop, just so I could get my David Lynch fix. And for anyone that knows, the first season of Twin Peaks is less than 10 episodes long. But what I saw blew my mind and set me on my David Lynch obsession for life. When I was 14, my dad took me to see Mulholland Drive at the cinema. I didn't quite know what I'd watched, but there was some spine-tingling moments. The Club Silencio scene, the Spanish version of Roy Orbison's Crying. Have any of you heard it? It's stupidly beautiful. Surreal, mysterious, uncomfortable, beautiful sequence after sequence. I left the cinema very confused, but my mind was racing. I didn't know what the hell it was all about, but it tapped into something in my teenage mind. And from then on, I was keen to seek out as much of this mad genius's work as possible. We left the cinema, and after talking it over with my dad for hours and hours, I dived straight into the internet to figure out what the fuck I just watched. Glorious fan theory after fan theory greeted me, and I started to try and unravel the amazing world of David Lynch and his online fans. And this was prior to the internet eating itself and being the most fucking toxic, insane thing in the entire world. Back in the heady days where people, I guess, meant what they
Talked
said.
about stuff, yeah.
Sorry that you're
No, please, this is good. Keep
you're
going.
all watching me read something off my phone. As I read more and more about the man, not only the depth and breadth of his amazing film catalogue, television series, his paintings, his artwork, his video installations, his music, his coffee obsession, and his love of transcendental meditation, for which he eulogized and practiced what he preached and wrote fucking books about as well. Eraserhead, Elephant Man, Lost Highway, Wild at Heart, The Straight Story, Fire Walk With Me. He has such an amazing catalogue of work. Anyway, cut to why I'm talking about this. My name is Dan, I'm in a band called Bastille, and we have a song on our, thank you, we have a song on our first album called Laura Palmer, which for me is like my over-the-top, epic, indie pop love letter to Laura Palmer from Twin Peaks, who for me is the best absent character ever on television. I love her. Yeah. We borrowed his aesthetic wholeheartedly on our whole first album campaign. It's in our artwork, it's in the videos, it's in so much of what we did. Basically, I was like a nervous, shy, awkward, mid-20-year-old who was in a band that started off as like a weird indie DIY thing where we recorded our songs at home on our laptops and traveled the country playing shit gigs in pubs, sleeping on floors, borrowing our friend's mum's car and driving around. We never imagined being mainstream, and we never imagined being as big as we were, which still blows my mind, and as you can tell, I'm not cool with it. And but for me, at the time, the best crux in the world was being able to, in interviews, to flex. Whenever I was asked about myself, I could talk about David Lynch, I could talk about Laura Palmer. Having that song allowed me to, when people asked me about myself, talk about his films and basically eulogize about how amazing he was. And one of the most gratifying things for me ever was, obviously we're super fortunate, we're really privileged, and we've been able to travel the world and play shows, but getting to, at every point, meet people who discovered David Lynch, discovered Twin Peaks, and discovered all of his work via this stupid song that we made, and getting to distract from my own experience by just talking about David Lynch. So, thank you. In fact, I talked about David Lynch so much on that weird first couple of years as a band that one day we got a message from his record label. So it turns out David Lynch, as well as being a fucking genius and a multidisciplinary artist, he's also a musician. He'd made an album that I'd never heard. It's mental, as you can imagine. It's the most obscure, weird, ambient, like crazy dreamscape stuff. He'd made a second album, and his label got in touch with me knowing how much I was obsessed with him. And they asked me to do a remix of one of his songs. So we were sent the whole album by Rob DeBank and asked to like pick a song. I listened to the whole thing and was like, fuck me, this is all so impenetrably weird. How the fuck, as me as a basic musician who works with 4 chords and a tiny dinky little keyboard on my laptop, how the fuck am I going to do a remix of one of his songs? So we found this song on the album, the last track, it's called Are You Here? And we were like, this is the one that most fits in my basic brain. So we took his vocal, isolated away from the track, and we imagined David Lynch was floating through space, 2001 A Space Odyssey style. And we put all these strings behind it. I basically did loads of harmonies in and around him in a big sort of choral, spacey kind of way, loads of theremin. Essentially, I forced David Lynch against his will to be in a duet with me. Like, I could not have more forcibly surrounded his vocal with so many of my own vocals. But we did this remix, and I can't describe to you, when you do a remix and you send it in, and we had to email it to him and his manager, and it's like handing in homework. It's like handing in your fucking thesis to the person you respect more in the world than anybody else. Like growing up, I was such a film dork. He was like my Bowie. Like, I could not have cared more about this. So imagine emailing at davidlynch.com and his manager, emailing this remix in, and, excuse me, dry mouth, nervous. Didn't expect a response. Turns out he loved it, which is mental. And thanks. Thank you. Thank you. So imagine getting the thumbs up from the person you respect more than anyone else in the world. Real victory moment for dorky little Dan, guys. Thank you. And it felt like my years of David Lynch evangelism had paid off. So they liked it. They were like, we love it. We're gonna put it on the 7-inch. We're gonna release it as a single. I was like, that's fucking mental. I don't even know what a 7-inch is. Sure. And he said, we love it. We're gonna release it. And when you're next in LA, like, you should come around my house. I was like, I've never been to LA before. That's mental. But sure, I'll come round. So basically, we've had massive privilege in our band. It turned out we got to tour in America. We went there, and so my first ever time in LA, I got to go to his house. Amazing. It was fucking bonkers. Have any of you seen Lost Highway? Or any of his films? Really warmed up the crowd, haven't I? Basically, me and my manager at the time, we turned up in the hills. I'd never been to LA, so I was like, there are hills? We turned up, knocked on the door, we're like, hello, we're here to see David. And out of this tannoy came this, like, come round the side door. And I was like, I felt like I'm in a David Lynch film. So we went on the side alley, and the door opened, and like David Lynch, fucking actual David Lynch, he was there in overalls, covered in paint. He was like, hey, Dan, welcome, come in. And I was like, sorry for my American accent, I'm so sorry. So I walked in, me and a manager at the time, walked into this room, and it was like a screening room, a studio, a painting place, basically everything. We know when you think of a pretentious wanker artist cunt, like it was that place, but like beautifully embodied, like it was amazing. And David Lynch was there, and he was, as well as being one of the greatest artists ever in the world, the nicest man in the world. He was like, come in, sit down. We sat in his weird cinema seats. He made us a coffee. And so David Lynch, if you know much about him, he's like obsessed with coffee. He mentions it a lot in his work, but he also makes his own coffee. And he gave us a cup of coffee. It was like fucking cocaine on acid. It was the strongest shit I've ever had in my life. And if you can see me now, as a slightly drunk person who's awkward in front of people, imagine me on hardcore amounts of caffeine, trying to talk to the person that I respect more than anyone else in the world, and trying to keep it cool. Anyway, luckily, the whole situation was predicated on the fact that, like, he'd invited me there, so I wasn't just invading his space. I was welcome. Anyway, I'm rambling, this is awful, but basically, sorry, he was wonderful. It was never meet your heroes, blah, 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 blah. He couldn't have been more warm, more friendly, more kind, more interested. He was interested in what other people were up to, which was so wonderful. Anyway, that was amazing. That wasn't, I've gone off script, guys. I wasn't looking at my phone. But, Wild at Heart. Back to the thing that you're all here for. Not my talk. So, for those of you who haven't heard his music, it's as bizarre, fun, and obscure as you would hope and expect from David Lynch. And in a minute, they're going to play the remix that we did. If you think it's awful, keep it to yourselves. It's one of my pivotal life moments, so again, keep it to yourselves. But yeah, it was bonkers, and I still can't believe it's real. And still to this day, and when I die, that'll be one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. So, when David Lynch died in January this year, the whole world lost one of the most understated but towering, unique, eccentric, creative geniuses in living memory. It speaks to how much of a perpetually vocal fan of his I am, that I don't think I've ever received more messages in one 24-hour period than on that day. So obsessed was I with that man that people I'd met throughout my entire adult life and whose numbers I'd lost and forgotten were messaging me and calling me to see if I was doing okay. And I felt like a fucking fraud because I was like, I love him, but I don't know him. It's devastating for his family, obviously, and it's devastating for all of us as fans because we'll never get any new David Lynch material. And the best thing about him was that he was just like furtively creative all the time. In his films, his TV, his video installations, his art, he was always creating. One of my favorite memories was as a student going with one of my friends to Paris to see his paintings exhibited at this gallery. And it was fucking insane. It was the most generous exhibition I've ever seen. He had all of his paintings from all of his life and all of his scrapbooks exhibited on the wall. It was like a portrait into his brain. He was a man that wanted to make stuff all the time, mining the weirdest dreams, the weirdest narratives, the most bonkers stuff, challenging all the normative things as a guy that like lived in LA with a family and kids. He was always challenging the world, and I fucking love that so much. So I hope you enjoy Wild at Heart tonight, if you're gonna stick around. It's a classic Lynchian, surrealist, dark fairy tale road movie with its with its Wizard of Oz and Elvis references. It's a bizarre crime romance film filled with Americana, amazing visuals, some classic crazy Nicolas Cage weirdness, and the brilliant as ever Laura Dern. Wonderful vintage David Lynch in many ways. It won the Palme d'Or, which is the big prize at Cannes, a pretentious French film festival. And that kind of says everything. Like, it spoke to those pretentious cunts who ran that festival. And us, here, at Glastonbury. So that was in 1990. And if that audience loved it, then you know it was good or weird or whatever. But I hope you enjoy the film. I can't think of a better place to watch it than at the best arts festival in the world, Glastonbury.
That was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to Dan Smith.
Thank you to Helen.
And enjoy Wild at Heart. Have a great time.
I'm sorry for the weird remix. Apparently it's cut to like loads of David Lynch footage, which is great. And have an amazing weekend. Thank you so much for coming. Enjoy. Happy Glastonbury, everybody. Have the best weekend.